This is great. Thanks for coming on. Michael Patrick Shiels, the one and only.
Counselor,
How are you doing?
here I am. I've been sworn in. I know you've read my complaint.
Yeah, exactly.
There it is.
You're dressed ready for the holidays.
Every day is a holiday, don't you think? In life, any day that we can do the kind of things that we do with people is a holiday.
Big days.
Seeing you is a holiday.
Every day is big day.
Every day you play golf is a holiday too.
Right. How you doing? How's business? How's the show?
Pennies from heaven, I say. People say, how is it to have a talk show? And it's 3 hours a day, so that's a lot of time to fill. But these days, pennies from heaven. By the time you and I are done talking, who knows how many crazy things will have gone on in the world politically or in business or in sports or lifestyle. And so really it's hard to fit it all in.
It's incredible what the 24-hour news cycle has done for America and for people who, we get information constantly and we can see everything that's going on all the time.
Not sure it's good because what percentage of that information is real? My mother always says, I heard. I said, where? Facebook. I said, who? They.
Yeah.
Who's they?
Some of it you can tell is not real, and some of it is, kind of a trap to get you to read the article. The headline is sort of gets you to bite into it, and then it turns out to be not.
Clickbait.
Clickbait, right?
Yeah.
So
there's that.
You're not from here.
Downriver, south of Detroit.
Yeah. Born and raised.
The Boblo boat used to stop there and take us
Yeah.
to Boblo Island back in the day. So Detroit area, yeah.
The mom and dad.
Both of them were from downriver, and I emerged up through Detroit. At my first wedding, I married a woman from West Bloomfield, and I was coming from downriver. And her father said to me on the wedding day, you skipped right over Livonia.
That's where Don.
He was right.
That's where Don Massey Cadillac was in Livonia.
Giant. He was a giant.
So you know how this works. We talk a little bit about your background, and then we talk a little bit about your profession, and then we talk sort of about where you are today and where you're going. So, born and raised in Detroit. Do you have a brother?
I have a brother. He became a TV weatherman. My poor parents, I wasn't a great student. I was the oldest. And I decided I wanted to be in radio. And that's like telling your parents you're going to be a rock star. Okay,
Right.
Good luck.
Like a DJ or something, right? When
Yeah.
you say you're going to be in radio back then, it was you're going to
Yeah,
be a DJ.
I thought I'd be like a funny talk show host, or I DJ'd weddings and things
Right.
too. But yeah. And then my brother, he finishes second in his class, Catholic school, downriver, gets into the University of Michigan Engineering School, comes home at Christmas after his first term and says, in the engineering school, it's atmospheric and oceanic science. I'm going to be a weatherman. And they said, bloody hell, what happened? And then my sister was marketing director for the Detroit Red Wings for a while.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
So,
Three weird kids downriver went into showbiz. Everybody else went into the auto business. When I say the auto business, I mean
right,
manufacturing
everybody
cars.
from downriver was just in the factory, right?
Blue collar, pretty much, yeah.
What high school did you go to?
Our Lady of Mount Carmel.
And
300 kids. I graduated with 80.
very Catholic.
I was an altar boy too, believe it or not.
Went
I
to,
swear.
Went to church every Sunday,
Yes.
and that's sort of the Irish nature, right?
Yeah, you listen to your mother singing, and it's like embarrassing and fun. But anyway, yeah.
What
yeah.
did your dad do?
He sold beer, believe it or not, for Anheuser-Busch.
And your mom?
She went to work in the bank at some stage. So yeah,
Is she Irish too, or
She's Polish. Most
Okay.
everybody down there is. But she, I couldn't work in banking because I have fuzzy math. I can't have anything to do with that. But beer I could get with.
right? I think Jim Hios's dad ran a beer distributor out of Flint.
Oh, did he? He did very well too. Then I'm
Yeah.
sure.
And tell me, did you go to college?
University of Central Michigan first for a year, and I got thrown off the radio because they had a FM radio station there, WMHW.
Right.
97 something. And that's the first place I ever opened up a microphone and talked on the radio. It was a morning show.
Right.
And, we thought we were funny. And we called the city manager one day, and we did a put-on call, which I learned from listening to Dick Purton in Detroit. And it was a guy called Jim Martin. And we pranked him through the whole call. We taped it. And by the time it was wrapping, he hung up on us.
Right.
And I looked at my comedy partner there and I said, well, we're supposed to tell him who we are and tell him it's on tape and tell him it's going to be on the radio. And he said, he'll never let us do it. I said, you're right. So we aired it twice the next morning.
Is that what it means by a put on? That's just sort of a surprise that you're on the radio?
Yeah, the premise you present gets more and more ridiculous as the call goes on, but it starts very serious, you know.
Right.
And he went along with it, hook, line, and sinker. And then when it got crazy, he hung up. So I didn't think in college you could come and be taken out of class like you could at Lansing Catholic. But there came the dean in the middle of my broadcasting class.
What year would that have been?
1985.
So you graduated in high school in the spring of or summer of '85, June of '85. Did you know then that you wanted to be in radio?
Yeah. That's the reason I went to CMU, because they had a good broadcasting school.
What was it about, your upbringing that said, I want to go into radio?
Listening to radio stars. Detroit was very rich with J.P. McCarthy and Ernie Harwell on baseball, and Dick Purton was comedy, Jeff and Jer, Dick the Bruiser, and Arthur Penhallow. And it was creative and fun and wild and different. And so as a kid, I would listen to Larry King. He was on overnight.
Had you met JP?
No, not until I started working at WJR.
But not in '84 or '85. You didn't have any idea.
No, I wouldn't even dream of speaking to a man like that, at that age.
And so you get pulled out, and what does the dean say to you?
He said, we got phone calls coming into the city manager's office. So people actually were listening. What did you do? And I told him. And so we had to go apologize to the city manager, but they took us off the radio. And I was there to be on the radio, and that propelled me to come back to Detroit. And who did I work for when I got back there as an intern? Dick Purton, the king of put-on calls. So I got rewarded for a mistake, FCC violation, actually.
Really? Mm-hmm. In what way?
Because you couldn't record a phone call and air it without the person knowing
that it's being recorded and
air it. I think is probably the worst part.
Yeah.
You would know more about recording phone calls and when it's legal.
You can record the call, but the FCC has different rules than there's a lot of things that are protected by the First Amendment. That doesn't mean you can put them on TV or radio, and that's a different standard, as you know. Mm-hmm. So did you go back? Did you leave Central? Did you continue at school? Yeah, I went to University of Detroit and also took some political science classes for a minor at University of Michigan Dearborn. I think I was only, as far as I know, did one put on. Yeah, was maybe the victim of a put on call. It was Jazz McKay. What happened? Called our office, and it was sort of a bad time in our family, and he called pretending to want to be in like a drug case, and finally I said, what? Because originally it was something about drugs, and of course back in the 90s, that was. So I got the call, and I started talking to him. I was at the office, and the next thing you know, he's making all kinds of accusations. I said, I don't know who you are, but don't ever call here again. Somebody then called and said, hey, by the way, that was on everything you said was on the radio. And I'll tell you, remember the guy's name, Jazz McKay. Jeez. I'll never forget him. And, hopefully our paths never cross. Yeah, well, I'm glad our paths crossed, because if you're going to talk about anything that I'm doing in business or in life, there were at least 2 times, probably more, that you saved my career and saved my life. Well, and I don't mind saying this right out public, because I don't forget that. There's not a day that goes by I don't forget that. We'll get up to some of that. But tell me, is that right? Tell me, you're at U of D and you're studying what? Communications and political science, and really more. I'm working as many hours as I can in the radio business there, including taking that now job at WJR, which was weekend overnights as a producer. So I went from the bottom of the Fisher Building, in a sense, up to having the Hall of Fame radio morning show host. Tell me what that's like when you're working in a radio station as a producer, because I never been able to figure that out. Are you getting guests on the show? Is that what the producer does, or are you doing what Tony does now for you?
So different now, because when JP was on the radio, I would be slicing up newspapers, that came in the morning, 5 papers with a razor blade. We didn't have the internet.
Right.
We did have a wire service, we had a phone where you called and tried to get guests, sometimes on the fly, sometimes scheduled ahead of time. One time, I scheduled John Conyers, remember the congressman for Detroit, the Democrat, and JP looked at the list that morning. He says, I don't want to talk to John Conyers. I said, but he's in the lobby. He said, that is your problem, not mine. So I said, well, what if we put him on the phone in one of the other rooms? He compromised. All right. So imagine I go out there to get Congressman Conyers. I'm 25 years old.
Right.
I said, Congressman, we like the show to sound like it's people on the move, like they're on the phone calling in from Washington or their car. So he said, but he's right there in that room. I said, yeah, I know, but and so he did it on the phone 5 steps away.
Oh, wow. There you go. That's being pragmatic, right?
If he said X, I said, okay, boss. That's how I went about it.
Yeah, that's a bygone era, right?
It probably is. If he wanted a muffin from downstairs at 7 a.m., which he did, I got the muffin. Wanted his car cleaned? Okay, no problem.
So you're going to school, and how do you get a job at WJR?
The weird thing about me as a kid is I applied for all kinds of things. Some of them I had no business applying for. I don't know why, but I wanted to be around the action.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, why can't I be the ball boy at the Tiger games?
Right.
And I ended up the ball boy at the Michigan Panther games originally.
Oh, really?
Just to be around Anthony Carter and the other players.
Yeah.
And they ended up taking me the next year to training camp in
Was
Arizona.
that Hebert?
Bobby Hebert.
Bobby Hebert.
Quarterback.
And you know who the leading running back was for Michigan, for the USFL for the first 5 or 6 games?
Must be a Spartan.
Well, it was Tony Ellis.
Oh.
From Michigan State.
Who did he play for?
The Panthers.
He did?
Yeah.
Huh.
So he was right out of school, and I can't remember. I think the Panthers won the first year.
Won the whole shooting match.
But for the first, I don't know how long their season was, 6 or 8 or 10 games. For the first half of the season, he was the leading running back for them, and then whoever else they got replaced him.
John Williams or something like that.
Yeah. Those were good old, man, that was a long time. What was that, 87, 86?
I know I wasn't old enough to drink, but I did at the training. You get raised by a pro football team, you're going to have a Coors.
Mm-hmm. Was that at the Silverdome?
The training camp was in Arizona, but they played their games at the Silverdome.
Yeah. And so you get a job at the WJR.
Yeah, I just hammered away. When I wanted something, I was not going to be denied. And I'm not bragging. I don't know why I did these things because they were outrageous. But I remember when I got hired by the PGA Tour to make television programs at Ponte Vedra, the woman who ran the organization said, we had to hire you because we didn't sick of getting mail from you. Back then, you didn't have email, so said, and she said every time I went to the mailbox, there was something from you, and that convinced them to bring me down there.
And when was that?
That would be, I don't know, mid 80s, I guess.
Okay, so about
late 80s probably.
Late 80s, but the WJR is really where you made a career for the most part, right?
Yeah, I left WJR to go to the PGA Tour.
Okay.
JP gave me a big break because he was expecting me to rise up to the level to produce his show. And then I got the tour offer. And he, like you, gave me the break of my life because I told the program director, I'm going to go work for the PGA Tour. And he said, but JP's going to hire you, though. He said, call him and ask him. I said, I'm 25 years old. I'm going to call JP and say, hey, are you hiring me or not? He's in Florida at Jupiter Island at Christmas. And I called him, and it was like I was nervous as a cat. And he said, the tour's offering you a job. I said, yeah. He said, why don't you do this? Go down there, beat Winter, and when I'm ready, I'll call you.
Wow.
I got to have my cake and eat it too. And
right.
I mean, these are angels, along the way.
So when you start at WJR, are you still in college or are you done?
I was done then, yeah.
Okay. And what are you making when you get done with college and you walk into
radio? How much money?
Yeah.
I think that was $21,000.
And what year would that have been?
in 1989, around there.
And you got friends probably going to work and all over the place, right? Engineering and accounting and all the different professions that graduate, and they're all probably making $30,000 or $40,000 a year, right?
But there's no business like show business.
Yeah. So, but I assume at some point, everybody's like,
This is
talking-
how dumb I was. When they told me the job was 21,000, I probably said, "All right, when can you get me to 24?" They said, well, no problem.
And what's that like? What are you doing for $21,000 a year?
You're driving to the Fisher Building in the dark and preparing for
First
a
thing in
Hall
the
of Fame
morning?
radio host, and then working with him through the glass, and then preparing for the next day. But he was really cool, that guy, JP.
Really?
The first day he came in my office before he went home, and he said, "Look, whatever goes on up in there, it's like an NFL game. It's the sideline. But after the show, and we become friends again."
So he could have a temper.
Yeah, but he never did. That's
He
the
never
funny
did?
part. No, he
not
never.
with you.
He would say silly things like we had a record library down the hall where you would go and fish through the albums, because that's how we played music. And he said, "Go in the library and bring me all the cards from the 4 freshmen, because whatever you pick, it'll be wrong." So 2 weeks later, he would say after the show, "Why don't we go down in the Fisher Building and have a breakfast beer?" Okay. So once we had that first beer, I'd say, "You know what you said to me last week?" He'd say, "Go on, tell me. What did I say? What did I say?" And I would tell him, and he'd say, "Well, you must think I'm a real bastard." It was swag, you know what I mean?
Right. And did you like being around somebody who was the voice of Detroit?
I went anywhere I found out he was going, any charity event, any media events. Sometimes he'd take me to 3 innings of the Tiger game, but if he was there, I knew it was an important thing to be at, and it was very good for mixing and meeting people and so forth. And
Was
I
he,
learned a lot.
Was he a mentor to you, or was he just more of a star?
I'd say a mentor for sure, because he allowed me to be on his coattails and drink with his pals once in a while,
Did you ever get on air with him?
No, never. Now that you mention it.
Never were
He
on
worked
air.
alone,
Yeah.
other than his guests.
And so what was it that made you want to be part of the tour? Because I late 80s would have been pre-Tiger Woods. I guess Greg
Yes.
Norman would have been really hot then, right?
It was
Tom Lehman and
dream, and it might have been the broadcasting. As you know, I ended up working
friends with Jim Nance, right?
and Ben Wright, the
Yeah,
CBS golf
yeah,
analyst.
exactly.
We wrote a couple books together. Again, I wanted to be near the action,
Right.
and it was JP having Ben Wright call into that show was the way I met Ben Wright, and that's the way we became friends. And he had peril. He got kicked off the air at CBS,
Right.
canceled. I don't find anybody that thinks it was valid cancellation, but that's okay.
He had a great voice.
And I stayed in touch with him anyway. And this is
Right.
another thing that I know you do. You don't throw people away when they have trouble. That seems to me when you go to them. And I know there are other examples than me, but I experienced it from you.
Yeah,
I saw you. You brought me into Sidebar on a Saturday night and sat there calming me down. You didn't say you were calming me down, but I know
Yeah.
that's what you were doing.
Yeah, well, you sometimes you needed to be a little bit of needed to be calmed a little bit.
Fair enough.
So
You
You
told me
know,
one time, you don't have the stomach for litigation.
well, that's true. You have your sort of dream job, right? And you decide, I'm going to go try and work on tour making brochures.
We made television shows. Inside the PGA Tour was the first one, and then we would do production at events. And so I got to be in media and golf at the same time.
Tell
which was
me,
really fun.
what you're sending letters down to Pontre Viedra, which
Yeah.
is where the PGA Tour was.
The headquarters at Sawgrass.
Yeah. And so what are you saying in the letters?
Oh, I'd do silly things like I would cut out pictures of tour events and write stories at the bottom of what I thought of it and that kind of thing. We didn't have computers to do that, so you had to be
Right.
creative. And I'm sure I would be embarrassed if I probably saw some of those letters, but
Are you looking in the wanted ads for whether they're hiring, or are you
No.
just asking? Hey, I
Just
want
like that'd be fun to work there, I bet.
And
I
that-
think I read about them in Golf Magazine, and that was it.
right. And then did you what did you get paid leaving WJR and leaving your home
The
to
tour,
go? Yeah.
$13,000.
So you took a pay cut.
And I asked the lady, is there, and before I could, no. Her name was Donna Giles, who became Donna Orender, who became the commissioner of the WNBA.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you still know her?
And her husband became president of the PGA of America, Orender.
Oh.
Yeah.
What John Linder was president of.
Yeah, before John.
So tell me, how long are you working for the PGA?
I was only there about 3/4 of a year until JP called me back.
Oh, so you.
So all through, let's see,
It was
through
a summer leisure.
all through the Phoenix Open, the Bob Hope Desert Classic, Pebble Beach, Sawgrass, Augusta.
When was that?
I beat winter, like JP said.
What year was that?
It was the year that Ian Woosnam won the Masters, whatever year that was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He hit it out over the bunkers on 18, and then hit a little pitching wedge.
I remember watching it on the TV there in Ponte Vedra.
Yeah. Did you travel with the tour? Or
Yes. Yes, and then eventually I wrote for them for PGAtour.com. And then I did something. I did a huge number of tournaments in 1 year in my car. Event to event to event, yeah.
And so you're working down there, and I guess JP says, come on back.
Mm-hmm. And there I go.
And there was no question what you were going to do, right?
Coming back for sure, yeah. That was the call I was waiting for.
And what are you doing for him when you come back?
Producer, lining up the guests. And in fact, I remember hearing Bo Schembechler saying, I will not be outworked. And that was my mantra on day one. I will not be outworked. I got this job, this producer for this Hall of Fame radio host. So the first day, I was in my office, and the phone rang at 3 p.m. The morning show was from 6 till 9 a.m.
Right.
And it was JP's secretary. He wants to speak to you. Oh. He said, what are you still doing there? I said, I'm working on tomorrow's show. He said, get out of there. You're going to burn yourself out. That's enough.
First day.
We'll do it in the morning. So what a guy.
Yeah. And tell me where, how long did you work in that job continuously?
The last 5 years of his life.
So which would have been?
Right up until 95.
So like 90 to 95.
He died in his early 60s.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so as he got, closer to the end, you could pretty much get any guest you wanted. Is that true?
Right. Yes.
I mean, when people knew he was going off the air, it became a real thing to be on JP, didn't it?
Well, I think that was quite a secret for the most part until the last 2 weeks when they tried to have a blood draw where anyone could come and get tested to see if they were a marrow match. Can you imagine?
Okay.
Total strangers in Detroit lined up. Hoot McInerney, the car dealer, funded it to see if they'd be a match for a guy on the radio.
He was basically the voice of the state. I mean, was there anybody bigger than him on the radio?
No. 30 years, #1 Radio Hall of Fame, Marconi Award, and a big reach, a big signal.
I mean, Bill Bonds was on TV
Yeah.
in Detroit, right? He was
Another massive personality.
Yeah, yeah. And tell me, can you give me any anecdotes about JP that, sort of represented him or your relationship?
Yeah. This would be like an interesting leadership exercise. It was Chuck Yeager's birthday. The guy who broke the sound barrier.
Right.
And at the start of the show, he says, get me Chuck Yeager. Okay. So I'm like, I don't say no. I'm like, how the hell am I going to get
Google.
Chuck Yeager? No Google.
Right.
So you start working the black book, start thinking of connections. Every 10 minutes, you got Yeager? No, I'm getting closer, though. Got Yeager? So finally, I thought of, it was a Chrysler dealer who knew somebody, and Chuck Yeager had done some work for Pennzoil with some kind of automotive connection, like there always is in Detroit and in Michigan. And they gave me a number to call, but it was in California. Time difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Say, General Yeager? Yeah. I'm calling for J.P. McCarthy. Yeah. Can you talk to him? If you keep me on hold more than 30 seconds, I'm hanging up. Say, okay, hold on. Put him on. And then I pushed the talk button and I said to JP, oh, no, I didn't. I typed in the teleprompter because it was the middle of the segment.
Right.
Line 3, Chuck Yeager. And he looks up after pestering me every 10 minutes and says, you mean you got Chuck Yeager? I felt like I should have had him an hour ago,
Right.
and he was shocked that I actually did it.
Right. Right. I mean, that's pretty incredible. Even today, that would be a massive task, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, people had phones, and they were harder to get to without the mobile phones.
60 is young.
Myelodysplastic syndrome, a form of leukemia.
Yeah. And how did that impact you, that to watch your hero, not only work, but then pass?
We did a remote because he worked right till 2 weeks till he died. And he got diagnosed on the 4th of July. He was gone by mid-August.
Wow.
And we were doing a remote broadcast at the University of Michigan golf course, the Bo Schembechler golf tournament.
Oh, Harbaugh, Schembechler.
And he
Carey
said, let's go on
Carey
the...
was definitely there.
Carey Campbell.
Definitely.
Is he here, by the way? Where is he? He said, let's walk to the clubhouse and see what's going on in there. So we're walking and talking, and I suddenly looked, and he was behind me a few paces, and he said, you have to walk a little slower for me these days. That's all he ever said to me about his illness.
Wow.
And I never even acknowledged it because I knew at work was probably, if he wanted to work, he wanted it to be,
Right.
away from all that.
And so what year would that have been?
1995.
Wow. Wow. And how old was he?
64.
So then what do you do? I mean,
Yeah.
the show is basically over, right?
Yeah. That is very difficult. And that is something that was, they brought in a guy, but it's tough to be the guy that follows the guy.
Right.
So I didn't stay long.
And what did
I
you
did
do?
produce a CD of the last radio show we did for him the morning after he died, which was lots and lots of clips of his voice.
Mm-hmm.
And we made $500,000 for charity with that CD.
Wow.
In fact, Jacobson's was one of the sponsors, and I did an event here at Jacobson's in Lansing where we did book signings because I ended up writing a book about him as well. So the guy gives to me to this day because I wouldn't have been a writer either if it weren't for him.
Right.
But I did a little bit of automotive PR and then did a little more golf work and so forth. And then like Michael Corleone, I thought I was out, and they pulled me back in.
And who's they?
They is WJIM Lansing.
Okay.
And that cluster of stations, which has gone through different ownership changes.
Right.
I came to be a temporary producer.
For who?
Dave Scott was his name. He was the morning show host there.
On radio or TV?
Radio.
Radio.
And 9 months later, after thinking, who can we get to replace him? They said, it was like Dick Cheney. What about you?
You mean George Bush to Dick Cheney about being vice president?
Yeah, because they went searching for someone to
Right.
run with him and then ended up being the search committee.
Right.
So, yeah, so that was the surprise, and that was 20 years ago now.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like you've been doing this forever.
I'll tell you the truth. Only recently do I think that I might be pretty good at it after 20 years. And it's only when I turn a nice phrase or make a transition or handle something that goes haywire because it's live radio, and it does.
Right.
And I say, "Whoa, you were very calm in that situation."
Tell me what it was, because you've obviously been all over. You apparently went to every PGA Tour event, right?
I think I've covered almost all of them. Maybe not Silvis, Illinois.
You did it in your car. You went from tournament to tournament.
Yeah. One time in Florida, I covered 2 tournaments in 4 days.
And why would you be doing that? Who
Well,
were you
because-
covering it?
Well,
for?
the Champions Tour was playing sometimes nearby the PGA Tour
Right.
event. So if I was doing the St. Augustine Champions Tour and Sawgrass was on, you could get your way around.
Right.
And then there would be one out in the Panhandle, I remember, that ended on a Sunday, a Champions Tour event. And the Sawgrass got delayed on the Sunday by lightning, which often happened. So I streaked back across the state and covered that last round. Remember, was it Hal Sutton and Tiger Woods that finished on a Monday? Walking
Yeah.
inside the ropes with Tiger. Why wouldn't you?
Why though? Like, who are you covering it for?
Oh, that was for PGAtour.com.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So they give you press credentials and
Oh,
say,
yeah.
go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of stories are you doing?
Somebody usually did a game story, which is fine. I was always column, some different angle, something unique and different, and which is what led me to the travel, because the destinations I was finding more interesting than the actual golf. And I want to go to Dubai, so I used golf to get there. And then I realized, you shouldn't just write golf, you should write general travel, which is what I do now.
What if you had to pull, like, what, as far as being, a host of a radio show, what do you think are some attributes that you pulled from JP that you can say, I learned this from JP, or
Not taking yourself seriously. I don't have any preachy agenda that I'm going to give you on the radio, and I'm going to be respectful to the guests, pointed sometimes, but respectful, and just having a sense of humor about it all. He had a wink and a smile,
Right.
But don't make the mistake that you're not going to get a slider or a curveball or a direct question.
Right.
Short questions, I think, are very good too. I don't know what it's like when you're on the stand examining or cross-examining, but you listen to some radio host, the question's longer than the answer.
Well, that's, I've written thousands of questions, and I took the time when I was young, and I still do today, to make sure that I organize my questions in a particular way. But the cleaner they can be, that's really important, the questioning. But when you're doing this kind of interview, you really want it to be about the listener, right? And about the guest.
Yeah, I had Robert De Niro one time on the phone, and I saw it on the schedule, and I said, 6:45, Robert De Niro, he's not going to want to be calling in. It was for some sort of charitable endeavor, so they lined him up. And he was, as I expected, saying a few words, not too into it. So I said, well, I'm going to throw him a nice one then. Okay, so I said, when are you the happiest? And he said, oh, this hour in the morning, you got to ask me a question like that. And then I knew, I'm like, I got to save this interview somehow because it's painful, even though it's Robert De Niro. And I'm going to have to do something stupid that's going to make me look stupid. Right. But it's time to jump on the grenade, So as he's in this big, long pause, I said, I'm talking to you. And he goes, yeah. Because I would never have done that otherwise. So cliched,
Right. That's great. That's great. So, you're in Detroit. You're basically a Detroiter, probably thinking you're going to be there besides travel. And all of a sudden you get this opportunity to move to Lansing.
Yeah, I thought I would be like a legislator, just kind of going back and forth.
Right.
But then when they, first of all, I found it to be more fun than I thought it would be.
What's that?
This town.
Okay.
It was pretty cool, I thought. You had the Capital District, you had the campus, you had suburban life, you could get to anywhere quickly. And, they were fun. Although I did ask when I got here, to be honest, I said, all right, where do you go in this town for a sophisticated drink?
Right.
They said,
what'd they tell you? Who's
they?
they?
You go to the tap room. It's
Who's
called
they?
Dusty's.
Who's they?
I forget who I asked. Somebody that I considered a knowledgeable
Right.
local. And I said, you're saying I should go to a place called the Tap Room, Dusty's Tap Room? They said, yeah. I said, where is it? They said, it's up around the corner in the strip mall. And I said, you're shitting me.
Right.
The sophisticated place to get
Right.
a drink is in the strip mall. Yeah, I didn't know any better, but now I do.
That would have been in the 2005, 6?
Yeah, that sounds,
time
well,
period.
20 years, yeah.
And
They were right, by the way. It's a fun place.
Right. What was your idea of, this is the kind of show I'm going to do?
Well, I just ripped off JP's act as much as I could. I didn't think I could really host a radio show. I was the number 2. I never wanted to be the
Right.
number 1. I like number 2. You can be a good number 2. But anyway, there I was, and so I did, and I just basically channeled a combination of Larry King, J.P. McCarthy, Johnny Carson, and really anyone else I would listen to. How did they go about it? Maybe Don Imus a little bit.
Right.
Dan Patrick, maybe a little bit. I pull from everybody. I even I saw your interview with Tim Stout.
Right.
He's got something to teach us too.
Yeah, Tim is, you don't do something for that long and not have some kind of, they call it institutional knowledge, but in his case, it's like professional experience or something, right?
Varnish. He's varnished.
Yeah.
But I do like the time I was listening on his program, and he's got a lot of sponsors. Thank goodness for him.
Right.
Many of them are golf sponsors and resorts. And somebody called and said, "Tim, I want to get my son into golf. I want to get him lessons. Where should I take him?" And I said, "Oh boy, this is going to be a good one." He named about 5 places,
Right.
like a NASCAR answer.
What? Yeah, he has to, right?
Yes.
The Morning Sun and Forest Acres and
Treetops. Don't forget treetops.
Tell me, when you're doing your show, is it your job then to get sponsors for it? Do you have to pitch and to keep your show, financially viable?
20 years ago, there was a market manager at one of the big companies, and his name was Matt Hanlon. And he came to a meeting here in Lansing because they own the station. And he said, "We're not in the radio business. We're in the advertising business."
Mm-hmm.
He's right, and nobody wants to hear that when you're a kid and you're interested. I didn't either. I wanted to make creative, fun stuff. But you can have more fun, and you can have the freedom to make creative, fun stuff with, of course, the financial support. So anybody who is worthwhile these days is also very keen to that element of it.
And are you still with WJIM or whatever it
We're
is?
heard
Or
now
did you switch over to Spotlight, or tell me the name of the reason for that transition or how that worked?
Well, Spotlight Media is Jeff and Suzanne Heward and myself, and we syndicate the program around the state, but it's based here in Lansing in the capital. So we put that program out to the various stations all the way up in Traverse City and all over the state. But here in Lansing, it's 3 till 6 p.m. now on 7:30 a.m. It's performed in the morning, still downtown at Washington and Allegan, and you're welcome to come and watch. Anybody is. But it's heard here 3 to 6 p.m., 7:30 a.m.
And so, better than, let's say, I don't know if it's 40 years, but 35 years of radio experience. Why do you think radio has changed over that period of time?
I think, giant companies bought huge numbers of stations.
Right.
And so they tried to make everything the same, or they tried to put, one jock in La Crosse and the other one in Columbus and have them do both.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to be, our guy, you got to be our guy. You got to talk about Michigan. You got to talk about Traverse City. We look at all the different outlets every day. What are they thinking about in Boyne Country?
Right.
What about the capital? What about Southwest Michigan? So I like to say that I appreciate creative radio. If you listen to my talk show, there's a lot of sound effects. Tony Cuthbert, there's a lot of music.
A lot of music.
Pay a lot of attention to hitting the post, like to play radio, like you said, and I appreciate that kind of creative radio, as opposed to somebody going on and screaming about politics until their voice is hoarse.
How would you describe your show? Like, if you were going to explain, hey, this is the reason why you'd listen to my show, what would be your, 2 or 3 points?
Well, it isn't going to be caustic. Hopefully it's uplifting. Hopefully it's funny. We take the work seriously, but we don't take ourselves seriously. Politics is our family business, but in media stat virtus, which means?
I don't. Let's say that again. Latin?
Yes, Latin in the law. The truth is in the middle.
Oh, the truth is in the middle, right.
So we have both sides on, and both sides know that they're going to get some curveballs, but they're not going to be accosted by somebody. And, so I like that part of it.
I often say this to many listeners or many of our guests, but in order for you to do what you do, which, to get Republicans on the show and feel like they're lucky to be on the show, and the Democrats, you have to have strong relationships with all of them, right?
Sometimes interviewing somebody that is the most difficult interview.
Right.
Because you want them to do well. And you can't help but carry that in your presentation. So I don't talk to guests, for instance, if I'm in person with them before we talk on the microphone. The same thing you did today. We didn't have any chitter chatter. We sat right down.
But you do seem to have strong relationships with everybody on both sides of the aisle.
Oh, yeah, because I appreciate everybody's effort.
Right.
I don't think anybody means us harm. They just have a different way of looking. Father Mark Inglet used to have the greatest thing he'd say when you're in a dispute with someone. You say, you may be right.
Right.
You're not saying you're right, and you're not saying you're wrong. Yeah,
and do you try and hide your political beliefs when you're on the show? I mean, as opposed to, the way Fox News or...
You know what Dean Martin said?
What's
His wife said, "Who do you share your intimate thoughts with?" And he said, "Jeannie, in order to share intimate thoughts, you have to have intimate thoughts." So I'm not a zealot. I'm intrigued by it all. I like watch it from the sidelines.
But you're not. You are very open about your faith on the air, and you've been
how failed I am.
Well,
for sure.
You've been fairly consistent over the years about your relationship with the church. And, you also often give, I think they're gospel readings or little sayings. And
on the show, yeah.
How important is your faith and why have you been so, dedicated to having, such a strong belief?
Because of the tremendous blessings that I've had. There have been times, every once in a while, I just stop and I look up and I say, that was pretty funny. That's a good one. And you got to be able to say that when something bad happens and when something good happens. But most of the time, it's easy to say, why me? But in my case, when something good happens, I still say, why me? Why did I get a blessing like Andrew Aboud to come into my life? Why do I get to be here in Miami Beach? Why? And so I know it's not that I'm being directed, but I'm being channeled. I think it's fantastic. And I think, another homily that Father Mark gave is God has visited his people. And you know who God is? You and me and Charles. We're visiting each other on his behalf. Now, I do sound like a preacher, but when I go into a shop, I love to chitter chatter with the person behind the counter. That's a human being.
Right.
Now, as Father Jake Folio, you were very close with him too. And he was, 80-something, 89 maybe, the little Italian. He was like Yoda if you never met him. And he said, never walk past anyone on the street without somehow acknowledging them. He says, you don't have to say hi or get in a conversation, but at least nod.
Right.
Because we're kind of all in this together.
And Father Mark and Father Jake, they played an important part in your life.
Huge.
And you're not afraid to acknowledge either one of them. And Father Mark had great homilies, didn't he?
Fantastic. I have some on my iPhone that I still listen to.
Really?
And also at Christmas, we play the talk that he gave from the sheet on his mother's piano.
And Father Jake passed away after an accident, and I don't think I would have known him or been as close to him without our relationship. But how much of an impact did he have on you?
Huge, because I'm relatively new to town, and he's not. He'd been here longer than the furniture at St. John's. But I had something I wanted to confess, and I didn't want to go to Father Mark because I was friends with him. And I didn't really want to go to anybody who would know me to confess this. So I went to a name I didn't recognize at 12:15 or before the 12:15 Mass on a Monday, I think it was. I went in at St. John's there to the confessional, and I started to go through the whole, Father, forgive me for I have sinned. And he cut me right off, this voice behind the window. He said, what'd you do? I said, oh, okay, I blah, blah, blah. And he said, just because you did that doesn't mean X. I'll give you this one wasn't what it was, but he said, just because you steal doesn't make you a thief. It was like that kind of philosophy.
Right.
So he said, why'd you do it? And I'm behind the window. Usually this is pretty formulaic, and he just says, well, and he asked me about it. By the time I leave there, I'm in tears.
Really?
Emotional. And he says, go out. This is your penance. There's that big crucifix, life-size crucifix in St. John's. Go hug his feet and tell him you love him. And now I'm silent. He says, or you want 500 Hail Marys? I said, I'm going. I went out to the office after I did what he told me to do. And Denise was the woman in the office. I said, who is that in there? Who's that man? I didn't know if he was 28 or 88. But at that moment, I became a disciple of his for sure. And it wasn't easy to get. I mean, yeah, he was very busy.
Right.
It wasn't easy to get in his circle.
Really loyal to you. And, I seemed to, I don't know if I met him, but seemed to develop a relationship with him when I opened the bar and he would come in, and he was sort of a showstopper. I mean, the next thing you know, he'd be at the round table and we'd be having discussions with you and him and, sometimes Lisa Raymond or Lisa Feda, and there'd be a big group, and it was just great to be around him.
He admired you very much, even to you and to me when we weren't with you. But the one puzzling thing took me a long time to figure out. He said, Father Jake, in order to be reverent, you have to be irreverent. And I didn't really understand what that meant for a long time. Do you?
No, tell me what you think it means.
I think it means that if I can tease you a little bit,
right,
that's a form of reverence, of authenticity, that we're both, people.
Right.
I think that's what that means, and I hope it is, because that's the way I've been going about it.
I think that maybe in order to be able to tease somebody, you have to be able to take being teased too. You know what I mean? Like, in order to be humble, you also have to sometimes stand on principle. Like, some things matter and some things don't. But maybe I haven't given it enough thought. But
in order to be reverent, you have to be irreverent.
Yeah, that's a great saying. So the thing about it is that, doing the radio show, getting guests on, living your life, it seems like, a full-time job. It's really your dream job, right?
I wouldn't want them to take it away.
Right.
Now, when the alarm goes off sometimes, the first words out of my mouth are not made for,
It's one thing.
FCC violations.
I could understand somebody saying, I wanted to be Wolfman Jack, or I want to, because you were growing up in high school, probably saw American Graffiti and that whole era, but you wanted to be
talk show,
radio guy, right? Larry King and
funny radio guy, talk show.
But tell me how you decide to become an author.
Well, I wrote the book about JP after he passed away. There was such a huge demand. And that book went to #1 on the Detroit News bestseller list on a Sunday morning. I didn't run. I drove the car to the bookstore to get the paper and say, how did we do? And I got him to be #1 again after he died in another venue, and that was literature. And to me, that was very satisfying.
Yeah, but you say it like, I wrote a book. Okay. like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
I mean, that's not an easy thing to do, to write a book. I mean, normally they're 300 to 500 pages, something in that neighborhood.
Hemingway said if you could get 8 good pages a day, that's good productive work. It doesn't sound like much, does it?
Well,
but it is.
But it's like, I don't even know what I'd call it. Maybe climbing Mount Everest, right? There's a lot of people that try, and there's a lot of bodies strewn.
Yes, there are.
Right.
Or they have an idea, but then there's the work.
Yeah, and so, somebody might get 8 or 10 or 20 pages, and, whether it's good or not is another thing, but to actually, put something together that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and, you're willing to, see it all the way through and edit it. I mean, how long was the first book that you wrote?
They usually take about a year.
No, how
more.
many pages?
I have 4 something, I think.
Yeah, 4 something, right? And did you edit it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
We had an editor also.
yes, but it's your book.
Mhm.
Did you have somebody help you write it?
No,
Yeah.
no.
So you're writing, right?
Mhm.
And I've just finished a 35-page brief
It's like
in
a term
case,
paper back in the day.
in a case, right? And
Jeez, that's
35
serious.
and editing a 35-page brief, and actually was 51 pages, and the court said no, you can't submit a 51-page brief. And then they said we want you to get it to 35 pages. So we've been working, and I fortunately didn't write the first draft, and I thought it was a really good brief. And then we've got to edit out 16 pages, and my associate is like, how are we going to do that? And you start managing every word on 35 pages.
You know what Stephen King calls that?
What's a
Murdering your children.
Yeah.
Because you worked, you built this thing, and now you
Right.
got to go slash the hell out of
Right.
it. That's what he calls it.
And that was 35 pages. And what I'm wondering is what kind of, effort, energy, task, skill set does it take to do that on 400 pages? Even if you're not trying to cut it down, you're just trying to make it the best writing possible.
Well, I loved the topic, and I talked to 40 or 50 of his friends and got the stories together. And then, you've got a story to tell.
Right.
Ben Wright, same way, the CBS golf analyst, his book, Good Pounces and Bad Lies. I got to live with him and interview him for 50 hours probably. That's how we did it. It's his book. I'm the collaborator. So I got to live his life and hear his stories and have him show me the pictures. Same thing with the George Bush book. I get to
Right.
go basically live in Kennebunkport in the shadow of President Bush and his pals.
You've met him many times.
Mhm.
And
So you get to seep in as a journalist.
I know, but why does he care whether you are writing a book about him? Like, why would George Bush care that Michael Patrick Shields is writing a book about him?
Because I was smart enough to write it with his golf pro and fishing buddy,
Okay.
who he did care about.
Yeah.
But it took me years for them to trust me. Took me
Right.
probably 5 years of giving in any way I could. Come to the thing, broadcast at the tournament, bring other celebrities. Elaine Crosby came and some others. So they see you're not coming to take, you're coming to give.
Right.
And I didn't know if he'd do it or not. There was a lot of reticence in the beginning, but then eventually people around him started to see, hey, that guy seems all right. Maybe I ought to give him a chance.
If you show up enough, you become a regular, I guess, right?
This is very true. At Sidebar or anywhere.
Anyway.
Dusty's, you name it.
And so how many books have you written?
I think it's 9 now.
9 books. And do you have any on the
I do.
on
2.
the typewriter, I guess, for
I got
life?
2 going at one time right now.
Really?
Yeah.
And what are those subjects?
The title is The Boy and the Bull, Fear and Parenting in Pamplona. And it's about when I went to run with the Bulls at
Wow.
age 50 and took my teenage son with me, Harrison.
Yeah, and what's the other one?
The other one's called Fugitive Italiano. And as my attorney, I can tell you that it has to do with becoming a fugitive of the Italian government for a while
When you were there,
with a twist, yeah.
it's a true story, or
True story. I'm going to write it as, narrative nonfiction so that it's fun to read.
so
but it's a true
so
story.
9 books. Like, when you look back at your career, where do you rank that as your professional, dossier of accomplishments?
Oh, I think anybody who's thinking of writing a book will find out it adds credibility right away. You can say you're an author. And when you look on the shelf and see them all next to each other, that's very satisfying. When I look at that clip of JP's book going to #1 over Mitch Albom's Tuesdays with Morrie, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, Angela's Ashes,
Wow.
and then there was a book about the Clintons or something at the time, or Kennedys maybe, and JP's on top of that you wrote. Well, that was pretty cool. I
Great
must say.
subject. Great
Yeah.
subject. Makes for maybe an easy write, or no?
Passion, great subject, and in that time there was such a demand for him because he was taken at the height of his powers in a very short time in Detroit. Yeah.
So, professionally, what do you think you still want to accomplish?
Every once in a while, somebody says, wouldn't you want to go to CNN? And I said, what, I want to go in there on a Saturday afternoon with 8 boxes of people around me who each get to say about 15 seconds and be on camera and manage that, I don't think so. And the next guy that comes on right after you is going to do the exact same thing. Not creative enough. So I am loving traveling and writing about traveling. Lansing State Journal every other Sunday,
Right.
and other places too. And I just have, at my age, nearly 60, I don't know how you feel, but every second goes by so fast.
Well, that's true.
I don't remember it going this fast, even at 50.
Tell me, because another segment of your life is travel, right? And I mean, it's not just what are you doing for Christmas break or what are you doing. I mean, these are major events, right? That you've become not only an expert, but you've written about at length.
Yeah, about 20 years now also of travel writing in the journal and other publications. And my latest book is called Travel Tatler, which is full of tales at places.
It was book club at the Lansing Country Club, right?
That's right, thanks to you and your mother.
And tell me what professionally the travel part of your professional career is all about.
It's the excitement of education. When I was in college, I just wanted to take the classes in order to work.
They're saying 5 minutes, but we're going to go way over. So
Cinque minuto.
unless you gotta go, we're gonna.
No, that's flattering. I'm happy when I see you. I write about travel and I go to places on purpose. I go to Dia de los Muertos in Mazatlan. I've been to the Quebec Winter Carnival. I'm lucky to be able to go and experience these things, the running of the bulls, what have you. But I like to hear the stories. And I'm really happy that at this stage of your life, a couple of years ago, you started engaging in adventurous travel.
Yeah, that's for sure. Because, you know, what I hear about people is when they talk about their bucket list, it's I want to go here, I want to go there, I want to go to Paris or whatever it is, but they rarely do they have on their bucket list an emotional experience. You know, what do you want to experience in your life? Like, you can go to a place, right, and not really experience it. And tell me what it was like to go run with the bulls with your teenage son, because that, is, I mean, people die doing that, right?
They do. That's funny you say that because we spent a week. We started in Madrid and we made our way toward Pamplona. And on that Friday,
tell me how old he was.
Fuzzy math. If I was 50, he was probably like 18.
Okay, so he probably had you on the running part of it.
That's true. And all week long, people said, "Don't run with the bulls. Just go watch." And I don't know if he's paying attention or not, but I said, well, Hemingway didn't really run with him. He only, okay. But anyway, we get there finally, and it's the night before. And this festival, the San Fermin Festival, is the biggest bash in the world. So there's fireworks, and this is the night before the running of the bulls, which is on the 7th day of the 7th month. And Harrison says to me, I don't think you should do it. We're hours away from doing it, Why not? I just don't think. I said, well, the man taught me how to do it today. We went in there, and he says, yeah, but he doesn't run. He taught you, but he said he doesn't run because he has kids. He says, tell him you have a baby too.
This is about as good of advice, right, as you're ever. This is your son, right? When he's talking to you, this is like E.F. Hutton, right? You're listening.
We come all this way. And I said, but it's 900 people. And he says, Dad, you really think the odds are with you? He says, you're not fast. You're 50 years old. You've never done it before.
Is he going to do it?
If there's an actuarial pool, you're in it.
Is he going to do it?
No, he's going to watch from the safety of a balcony.
Harrison is?
Yeah, at that time when he was there. He wasn't running because I told the guy he's got too much to live for. Yeah. He's 18.
Okay.
So he said, are you doing it for you or are you doing it for the show? I said, I'm doing it for me. He said, then effing do it right. So we went to bed, and I set an alarm. It happens at 8 in the morning. Yeah. You got to be in the street by 7 because they wall off all the streets for the people who don't want the danger. And in order to get there by 7, you stop at the church at 6:30 traditionally, and you pray for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So,
This
you know,
is
you
right
wear
up,
the...
This is right up your alley, right?
Yeah, 6:30 Mass.
Right.
You put on all white and the red panuela, and but I had to set an alarm extra early, and here's why. I needed a spooker or 2 or 3, you know, to calm my nerves a little.
Mm-hmm.
So the night before, I bought a bottle of Russian vodka and some kind of mix, and I set an alarm in order to wake up in time to drink enough to have the courage to do it. And did you ever set an alarm to get drunk?
No.
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 But see, the young people in Pamplona, they're up all night.
Yeah.
So when they come out there to do it, they're already primed.
So you have your
I did it.
you have your juice, courage juice,
Yes, and prayers.
and your son
Vodka
didn't go
and
with
prayers. He came, and they put me in the street, and he went up on the balcony looking over the cobblestone street. I went over and gave him one thumbs up. I have a picture of his face. He's like, yeah, jeez. And then I did it. You know, he could watch from up there.
you. And tell me what that's like.
The danger is more people than bulls,
Right.
because you're in a human stampede. You're there, you wait. At 8 o'clock, you hear rockets, which are like fireworks. Boom, boom.
To scare
boom.
the bulls, or
That means the gates are open down the bottom of town.
right. And so what
The
happens?
second set of rockets means all the bulls are out. And then it's like a wave coming. You see people
Can
running.
you hear them?
There's all kinds of noise.
Yeah.
And then these massive 6 bulls that are giant. I mean, giant. You know, they're like SUVs. These bulls, they have 2,000 pounds. They come rolling by. And you almost are like, you have to use your hands
Right.
because you got people shoving you and you're trying to get through. And yeah, it's wild.
And how far do you run?
Well, the whole thing lasts 2 minutes from the bottom of town to the bull ring,
Oh,
which is
really?
where they're going.
Yeah.
So you can run as much as you want, but once they pass you,
Yeah.
the thrill is gone. And they did. And I was very happy to see them go by.
And tell me what it's like when you see your son after, because at some point, you know, you meet back up with him, right?
Yeah, meet back up with them, and that's the twist of it all. Yeah, then you go, like, you follow in Hemingway's footsteps, and you go have drinks here and there and whatever, and I think he was relieved. I know I was.
Mm-hmm.
But the next day, back in Madrid, we got taken to the place where the bullfighters train, and I interviewed a bullfighter, and he told me how he lost 7 pints of blood one time in a bullfight. Barely lived.
Wow.
So he was there at this place training. So we're looking around, not paying attention, a couple of Spanish girls, not a lot of people. They just let us in there to see it. I look up in the ring, and I hear the guide who was with me saying, no, no, no. The bullfighter took 18-year-old Harrison out there in the middle and gave him the cape. And it wasn't a bull, but it was a cow with pointy horns.
Oh.
But it looked like a little bull. And sure enough, I'm like, what? And the bull's going like this. I have the video. And then the matador starts running to jump back over because the bull came at them, or the cow or whatever.
Right.
And I said, this is what you can hope for. I stole all the drama to the running of the bulls with 900 people and 6 bulls in a crowd. The 18-year-old is out there facing the thing. And this, to me, is the whole crust of the story. Like, your kids outdid you. And you want your kids to outdo you, don't you?
I mean, there's a lot there to unpack. But not only did he outdid you, but you're there to be part of it, right?
Nobody asked me, can I take your kid out there and put him in front of the
bull?
bull?
you get to see.
I saw it.
Yeah. And he overcame
Irony.
whatever fear he might have had, or,
I don't know why he went
And
out
I don't
there.
think he would have done it without you doing what you did.
I never thought about that till you said it.
Right? He wanted to maybe live part of that. And, that sort of leads us into your relationship with Harrison.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's been a big part of your life, right?
Yeah, I'm surprised how emotional I get thinking about him and talking about him, to be honest.
Why?
I just...
You're an emotional guy. I mean, I would call you a endless romantic, right? You believe in, days
Yeah.
gone by of romance
Yeah, I sure do.
and sort of, being a gentleman and
That's a big compliment. Thank you.
mystery and
Mystery, all right.
fame and Harrison has you've changed your life for him in a lot of ways professionally, I think.
By spending a lot of time in California, you mean, where he
Yeah,
lives now?
yeah.
Yeah, I did. I went out there. Well, I used to visit him. He went out there for law school, to a Southwestern Law School.
Right.
And so I would visit him in California. And I said one day, I think I'm just going to move out here. And Harrison said, "What?" I said, "Don't worry, kid. I'll have my own calendar. I'm not going to crimp your style." So I did, and I didn't realize.
Tell me when that was. Was that just after
About
COVID?
3 years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
Toward the end of COVID. That's when I would visit him, and all
Right.
the restaurants were closed and all that. But I never realized how much I could get involved in another element of entertainment, and that is acting, just by showing up, as you said.
Right.
And I don't have any training or anything like that, but I'm willing to be there and be on time.
Well,
and show
yeah,
up.
yeah, public speaking training.
There
and
is
you
that.
understand that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to a scene, right? And you probably are decent at memorizing certain lines, right?
That's help. I'm getting better at it.
Yeah.
Memorization is tricky, but I'm getting better.
Do you have a card, an Actors Guild card?
I'm not in the union, no.
Okay.
No.
And would you like to do that?
I'm not sure, because there's maybe more work if you're not in the union.
Okay.
In Los Angeles and Hollywood there, I could work sometimes 3 days a week or more.
How did your partners feel about you saying, "Hey, I'm moving to California," or "I'm going to live in California"?
It was startling, I think, but inventive. And then, I think it has definitely rejuvenated me, and it exposed me to more interesting people, and I bring that to the show when I can. And, yeah, you probably have to reinvent yourself every once in a while and freshen things up and try something different, or like you wouldn't do this, right?
Life experiences cause you to constantly reevaluate where you are, right?
I think so, and it's been great. It's been very intriguing. I've been around some giant stars on sets. I've seen how the process works a lot, and sometimes I've even, been in scenes with them, and this is something different.
But you also are able to be closer to Harrison.
Yeah, I could walk there if I had to.
And tell me how that's been.
The funny thing is he's very busy.
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
The best way to get him is to go up to his office and take him to lunch.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean,
That he
you're able
shows
to see him and watch him develop as a young professional. And he went to law school. I know you're proud of him, and I know that was a big deal for him to become a lawyer.
Yeah, well, you know what it's like when you're waiting to see if you're going to pass the bar.
Right.
Well, that was dramatic. Ooh, he got it on the second try.
Yeah, well, that doesn't matter. He's just a lawyer, right?
He's a lawyer. I was more
And
nervous
the
the second time.
California bar is one of the toughest in the country to pass.
That's what people say, and I suppose it's true. I'm glad he doesn't have to do it again
And so,
for my own self.
yeah. And tell me,
You want to hear something weird, though, now that you mention it? The day my son was taking the bar the first time, Harrison, I was covering a golf event up in Minnesota, and Tom Lehman was there to open a golf course that he designed.
he's from there.
And his son was playing in his first PGA Tour event down at the Twin Cities event.
Wow.
And so when we talked, I said, "Wow, your son's round one today of his first PGA Tour event, and my son's taking the bar."
Wow. Isn't that nice?
We're all in it. I mean, you
Yeah,
and your
right.
children, you have similar stories, I'm sure.
Right. And so you have not only this, you're really not afraid to take risk or to change your life in a very short manner. I mean, that the decision to move to California I just can't fathom. I couldn't fathom it.
Well, what happened was I would normally go down to Florida for a couple of months in the winter
Right.
and broadcast from there, but then the hurricane hit and what have you. But pandemic year, when we started to emerge, I was going to head back up I-75 in the car. And I said, what happens if I turn left instead? So I went from St. Augustine. I literally put my feet in the Atlantic Ocean. I said, I'm going sea to shining sea. and I started heading west, and I did a broadcast tour all across the bottom of the country to encourage people to travel again after the pandemic,
Wow.
which included Biloxi, New Orleans, Houston, San Antonio.
And with modern technology, you could do your show
Yes.
from anywhere, right?
And I won a broadcasting award for it. I went all the way, all across those cities. And when I drove from San Diego up to Los Angeles, I went out to the Santa Monica Pier and put my feet in the Pacific.
Wow.
Because it had to be done, right?
Right, right. Well, it wouldn't be a show with us on it if we didn't talk about Kerry Campbell, would it?
I just saw him, and I'm sure anybody watching probably just saw him if you were at a big event or a sporting event or you name it. Yeah,
he showed
came
up at the Michigan State Duke game. And-
right after he came to the UCLA USC football game.
Right. And then he left to go to the Indiana Ohio State game.
The same day.
And I was told that there were pictures of him on the sidelines. And he sort of has
One
that.
day.
He sort of has that sort of mantra of freedom and travel like you do.
I don't know how he does it, and if I had a dime for every time somebody says, "How does that Kerry Campbell do it?" I said, "I don't know." They said, "What does he do?" I said, "I don't know. He's
Well,
just there."
I mean, it's a mystery, isn't it?
Very mysterious, and I hope I never find out. I like the mystery.
Right.
To speak to what you
he's got
said.
a book in there. So he's got a book in there.
But you're
so-
right. He's not just at the game. He's on the sideline.
Right.
And I'm pretty darn sure he didn't even have a ticket.
Right. So, of all the people that you've interviewed or developed relationships, I mean, presidents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Famous actors. Like, are there any of the anecdotes you can give us about some of the more famous people that you've run across? Or
Yeah, I'll give you a fresh one. Last year, Conclave. Did you see that movie about the papal
no.
election? Ooh, it's a good one if you're a Catholic, and I know you are. It was nominated for Best Picture with Stanley Tucci and Ralph Fiennes. It was all about, electing a pope.
Right.
So a week before the Oscars, I'm at the Polo Lounge, and Ralph Fiennes was nominated for Best Actor for playing the cardinal who organizes the conclave in the movie. And I'm at a table. I'm no farther than you and I are, but our backs are kind of he's facing this way. I said, "There's Ralph Fiennes behind me." And I said, "Well, okay." I'd had enough to drink where I said, "I'm going to take a little chance. I have a little gambit here." So I stood up, and when our eyes met, I said, "Your Eminence, the Pope is very ill this weekend, and you may be needed at the Vatican." Then I held my breath, and Ralph Fiennes said, "If I am called, I will certainly be there to organize the conclave." Because the Pope was very sick that weekend. So now I was a little even more empowered. And it was the same weekend the 007 franchise was sold to Amazon.
Wow.
And he played M in the last few movies.
Yeah.
I said, "But what if Bezos calls?" He says, "Bezos?" I said, "Yeah, 007 might need you, M." He says, "F Bezos. He's going to screw it all up." I said, and I gave him like this, "Go and sin no more." And I walked away. And that's all. I would never approach someone and say, "I'm a big fan," or "I really love your work," or "Can we have a selfie?" But to have a little fun like that.
Right.
Now, he could have said, "Get the F out of here," but he didn't. And I really admired that. He was good fun. And now I can say I played a scene where Freya
It's so much. People are much more open to having a little bit of, maybe that small talk or interesting talk than doing a selfie is so impersonal. This fall, I was in the elevator with Barry Sanders.
Yeah.
He spends a lot of time here on campus
Oh.
because his son is on the basketball team. And
I didn't know that.
And somebody said, and if you were in Detroit, obviously Barry Sanders was, the greatest football player in the NFL history, right? And somebody said, "That's Barry Sanders." And Barry was standing next to me on the elevator. He goes, Where's Barry Sanders?"
This is back to Father Jake's. In order to be reverent, you have to be irreverent.
Right.
So you have a little gambit.
Well, what do your holidays are special to you, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Anytime I get to take a little breath, but they're
long-
very emotional.
how
aren't
long
they?
are you in town for?
I like to go to the Rose Parade, so I might go back on New Year's Eve.
Okay, well, if you're here for Christmas Eve, there's a place over on Cambridge you can stop by.
I remember being there one year.
Yeah, we'd
That
love to
was
see
really
it.
sweet. What
We'd
an
love to-
ambassador you are, and you're a man who just hugs everybody in the way that you do.
We'd love to see you. This has been
Thank you.
a great hour. I appreciate you coming on, and always been a good friend to me, and I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I think I talk too much, though.
One of the things that I think is great about coming on your show, and I got to tell you, when I do the radio interviews, it's probably, I don't want to say I get nervous, but to the extent I get nervous, it's always to do that. Not going into court, not being on, anything else. And it's because in today's day and age, you never know what you're going to say that could get you canceled.
Mm-hmm.
But I never get worried about coming on your show.
Oh, good. That's
because
a big
you
compliment.
always make the guest feel like you're not out to get them. You know what I mean? You have a great way a warm way of asking your questions and, listening, and then your follow-up questions. And it's always a conversation, as opposed to you trying to make a point.
Thank you. I appreciate that compliment very much because I've got a lot to learn, and you don't learn by talking.
Well, I don't know that you do. You got a lot to teach too, and I look up to you, especially when you send me, things, anecdotes about your son, and I love when you say, "Hey, if you're down in Miami, ask about so and so at
Go to Joe's
Crab."
Go to Joe's Stone Crab. Ed Witt. Mention my name.
Thank you.
You won't have to wait. Bless you. Love you.
Love you.